What's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Ask Tony Show. Today, I have a very special guest, one of the few guests that I have chased. A lot of guests chase me, but this is one that I have chased. I've been so excited for this conversation for so long. My boy, Yohan, a.k.a. Yo-Yo Gaines. Yohan, thank you so much for being on the show, my man.
Yeah, Zara, you've been bugging me for a while. He was like, bro, we got to do this. I'm like, I get it. And then finally, I was like, you know what? Let's do it.
I'm like, what's it going to take, bro? I'll bring you food. I'll give you sneakers. What does it take? But you're finally here.
Chicken and rice. That's all it is. That's all I need. Yeah.
Well,
thank you for bringing me on the show, man.
Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Yeah.
I think we were just talking about a bunch of stuff off camera. So many great topics, so much depth of knowledge. Yep. But just to give the audience a little bit of context, Yohan was my coach, my nutrition coach for a long period of time. And during that time, I got to learn how much he cares about people. Yeah. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on is because in your industry, which is the fitness industry, the bodybuilding industry, it can often get very egotistical. It can get
saturated.
I have seen saturated, selfish. Yeah. And so especially because you're a competitor yourself.
Yes.
So that brings a whole different dynamic. And so I was very pleasantly surprised to see that you could compete yourself and still have the wherewithal to help others, even when you were starving, when you were on low carbs and things like that. But let's start talking a little bit about your story, who you are, where are you from, how'd you get into the fitness industry? Tell us a little bit about who Yohan is for those that don't know you.
Oh, that's crazy. So, I started this back in 2016, 17 by myself, mind you. I was going to the gym by myself. I was eating whatever I wanted, right? I was eating one burrito a day because I was cutting, quote unquote, right? I mean, it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. But I don't know anything. Yeah. And then finally, Jess and my wife and I hired a coach in 2018, beginning of 2018. And it completely changed our lives, And then I did my first year the same year, my first year of
Jumped
that.
on stage.
On stage, yeah. And then I loved it so much because it's not because I was shredded or because I won or whatever, or had medals. It's because the mental and the emotional changes that I was going through, the fact that I didn't know that I could do what I do, that was impressive. And I thought to myself, if I could teach someone to change their life through mental and emotional, spiritually, not just physical, and that was my calling, bro. That was it. And in fact, for the longest time, I never knew what my purpose in life was up until now. And it's still, and I didn't answer that until like a couple of years ago. Yeah. And so my purpose in life is to serve others.
When did that hit you? Was there like a moment that you can think back on? Was it a gradual thing, or was there something that just smacked you and you're like, I need to be a coach?
It wasn't smacking at all. Like, it was not immediate. It was gradually, because the more I do it, the more I do this for a living, the more I change people's lives. And then I'm like, man, like the simple things, because, people purpose in life is like, they want to be rich. They want to have a big house, cars, whatever. Yeah. But my thing is very, very simple. It's just, to serve others. And that could be a lot of things. It could be, you can own a business, you could be a waiter, you could be a real estate agent, you could be, you could be anything, right? For me, becoming a fitness coach is probably the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life, and probably ever will, unless I'm a doctor or something.
So, and do you see yourself doing this long term?
Long term.
Feel like you're going to do this until you're 65?
Long term. Yeah. People? Yeah, 100%. Maybe not as many.
Sure.
Right. But the goal is to build passive income, right? Sure. We all know that. And the more money I make on this, obviously it goes into all of my passive incomes. Yep. And then I want to retire by, 40, 45. You know what I mean? 10 years from now, I want to retire. Not because I want to retire from what I'm doing, is because I want to make money passively and love what I do.
Which is just the tangible definition of retirement, is you have enough passive income to cover your expenses. If you work, it's because you want to, not because you have to.
Exactly.
So, and very interesting. Because you run your own company. Yeah. It wasn't always that way. You started somewhere else, and then at some point in time, for various reasons, you separate yourself and you start doing your own thing. Yeah. I want to dive into that because I'm on that same boat. I've had my very own real estate agency since March. And so it's definitely a learning curve. But talk to me a little bit about that moment when you sit down and you decide, I'm going to do this on my own. You leave something that maybe was familiar, maybe was a little bit more comfortable, and you dive into this unknown. What was that process mentally like for you?
That was probably the biggest, scariest thing I've ever done, honestly. And I remember, and I was competing that year. That was 2020. I remember that year. And I competed in July, and I lost. I remember I lost. I took second again, right? Twice. Two different divisions. Two different classes, I mean. And I remember that moment. I'm like, man, I have some unfinished fucking business. Yeah. And that's what it was. I kept saying it. I kept saying it. And then, me and my business partner at the time, we were just kind of doing our own thing. We just kind of separated our own ways. There's so many things that he was doing that I wasn't okay with. And I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to do my own thing. And I communicated to a couple of people really, really close to me. And, to this day, I regretted the fact that I didn't have that conversation with him one-on-one beforehand, right? And I took that, that responsibility. I owned it. I should have had that conversation with him, and I didn't. But long story short, I went up to him and said, look, bro, I think it's time for me to do my own thing. And when I did that, it was very abrupt. I mean, it was like cold turkey, 24 hours.
I remember that. I mean, I was training
cold turkey, yeah,
when that happened.
Cold turkey, 24 hours. And then I remember me and my wife were in Park City that weekend because it was our anniversary. And we created everything, our logo, the Instagram, the LLC. I mean, we trademark everything. I mean,
in
everything.
One weekend.
Over the weekend, over our anniversary weekend. And it was a lot of unknown, right? Of course. But yeah, coming from what I've learned from the other company, which was a lot of great things, and there's a lot of not good things. I mean, just like any other companies, nothing's perfect. And then I took what I can. I've learned as much as I can from that, and I actually learned from a lot of different coaches as well. And I took all of that knowledge and I applied it to this business, and it was scary, bro. It was, I didn't know my client was going to come with me, and apparently they do. They all jumped ship, came with me, and that didn't affect anything in the other business, because the client was working with me, primarily. Creating something, and then not knowing where I was going to go. Yeah. Because we were still in the same building, so I separated from that company. A lot of people don't know this. There. And we were still there. We were literally working next door.
Awkward.
A lot, dude. And the crazy thing is, they were there for additional 3 more weeks afterwards, and we had to be there every single day, cross path every single day. It was super awkward, right? And again, I took the responsibility for not having that conversation beforehand, but at the same time, there's a reason behind that too. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of back end stuff that I shouldn't have done. Also owned, but for the better as well.
Of course. How did your wife take the challenge of starting something new, aside from the issues that you were having at the other place? How did she react to that idea of doing it on your own and facing this uncertainty of pretty much jumping into the void and seeing if we're good enough to build something that belongs to us?
But to be honest with you, she was skeptical, right? And so does every other partner in your life. When you do something different, you're like, wow, this is crazy. And I had that doubt too, and she took it very well. She was right next to me the entire time. She's actually the CEO of the company. So I'm not the CEO of the company. Okay. And she ran everything from the background, all the merchandise, social media, paperwork, everything back end.
She handles
all her. The only thing that I focus on is my clients and myself.
And what is that dynamic like? Because running a company just in and of itself is complex. But when you run it with your partner, what is that like on the day-to-day? How do you guys separate? Do you even separate life and business? What is that dynamic like? Because it's very rare.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Life, business, same. So anytime we're out and about with the kid, and any chance we get to talk about our business, we handle it. But we actually have every Sunday 7 o'clock every Sunday, we actually have a business meeting every Sunday. So we sat down and we talked about what she needed to do on her side and what I needed to do on my side and what I can help her do on her side. And there's a lot of things that she does, what a lot of people don't understand. And what makes me so successful today, it was because of her.
For sure.
Not because of me.
Because there's so many back end things. I'm in that right now. Accounting, legal,
All
contracts, how do the books go, licenses, insurance. I get there's so much is not just, I'm going to start my thing, I'm going to have my company. Like there's a lot of detail that has to be handled.
And when we travel, she takes care of all of it.
Yeah.
I'd be like, hey babe, we got to go, I have a show up in California somewhere or whatever. I need you to book the flight to blah, blah, blah. And then so-and-so is coming, blah, blah, blah. She goes, got it. And then she books all the flights. She books all the Airbnbs and cars, the whole thing.
That allows you to focus.
Allows me, dude, literally, and I kid you not, I don't even do my bills. I don't know any of my bills. I don't have any accounts of anything that I know of. For all I know, I don't even know how much money I have. I really don't. I'm people listening right now, like, this guy's crazy. No, I really don't.
Yeah.
She shows me, how much cash flows that we have, which is great. I'm like, okay, cool. And then what I focus on, literally, I have a whiteboard behind you, just like that, and I'll have my monthly minimum that I want to hit every single month, and I have my yearly. Right. That's all I focus on. Focus on the monthly numbers, weekly numbers. Focus on my clients and myself. She even does my meals. Like, I come home, my meals are ready to go at night. In the morning, all I got to do is pack it up and go. She knows exactly how much I'm eating, what she needs to put on my meals. She does all of that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
The funny thing is about the bills, and people are like, yeah, I got to do this. I'm like, I don't even do any of that. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's the reason why we're so successful, because I don't do any of billings or accounting, nothing.
And I think that speaks to a certain self-awareness of you knowing if you had to do everything, you wouldn't be nearly as good of a coach.
Nope.
Because your mind would be somewhere else. You'd be running math, doing all these crazy things. And so having that clarity of mind allows you to do that. And I think that it speaks very highly of Jess. Number one, that she has the ability and the wherewithal to do that. Yeah. But number two, it shows me that she believes in your talent and that she knows that if your mind is clear, you're going to win.
It wasn't like that before, though.
Okay. Talk to us about that.
I'm gonna elaborate on that.
Yeah.
When I wanted to compete, when I was with the other company, and I didn't tell her, she had to find out from.
You didn't tell her that you were competing?
I didn't tell her that I wanted to.
Oh, that you wanted to.
Because I knew that she did not want that for me.
See.
Right? Because she had this, this aura of bodybuilders are, egotistical, blah, blah, blah,
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. And so, and I'm like, babe, like, let me do it. Let me just do one. I'll prove to you that I'm not the same, And she was like, no. And then she goes, fine.
You were already married by this point in time.
We were a year, 2 years, almost 2 years in. And she was like, okay, fine. So we did it. Okay. That was huge hurdles, bro. Like, that was huge. And she did not want me to compete, right? And right after I competed, and then I said, hey, babe, I want to be a coach. She goes, hell no. Hell no. I'm like, you know how many coaches I know that are sleeping with their clients? Like, blah, blah. And that's real shit. That's real shit, unfortunately. Facts. Right? And I'm like, here we go again. So I had to earn that trust, even though I didn't do anything.
Yeah. But you had to overcome the stereotype
I did.
Of what you were going to.
So here we are. Through. She did not want me to compete. She did not want me to be a coach, let alone wanted us to create our own business. Are you kidding me?
Right.
So there's that's a double negative already.
Which is crazy. She went from not wanting you to compete to being the CEO of a fitness company in the span of what, 3 years? That's insane.
Yeah, I've earned it for sure. I've earned that trust for sure. And I didn't have a problem with that because it's just who I am. Right. Like, I'm not that guy. Yeah. And so that's one reason why I needed to separate myself from the other company that I was with, because I'm not that guy, And so when I created my own company, I was like, dude, you know what? It's going to be totally different. I'm going to run it totally different. And it's by far probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. And I'm so happy for her helping me, being right next to me the entire time. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have the clients that I have right now that are watching this all over the nation, plus here in Utah. I'm pretty known in that category as well, and which has been awesome. And she's always gonna be there
for sure.
100%.
And let's talk about those clients, because one of the things that stands out to me is your unique skill set, your unique ability to be able to help all sorts of people.
Yeah,
you can have the big dude that wants to compete, that's super muscular. You can help him get shredded.
Yeah.
And the pregnant lady that is 50 pounds overweight, you can help her. The teenage girl that is struggling with self-esteem, like you're all over the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And the approach, I would assume, is very different with each kind of individual. And so talk to us a little bit about where that skill set comes from and how you have developed the ability to adapt to different people, instead of just saying, I'm only going to coach competitors because that's my strength.
Most people do.
Of course. Or that's where I feel most comfortable. But you open it up to the entire spectrum. Where does that come from?
You know what's funny? Someone asked me this the other day, and it's the exact same question. And I said, you know what? When I first started this, coaching before I even had my own company, I've already had my personality set to be around every individual. So I know how to adapt to certain individual. And then the knowledge that came from that is learning the nutrition for each individual person that I have. But what I found out even more interesting was every one of them has some sort of a mental block. And they're actually very similar, to be honest. Whether you're pregnant, whether you're big, whether you're small, they all have their own mental block, but they're very similar. So I found this like a very fine line of
pattern recognition.
There's so I'm recognizing that. So I'm utilizing that knowledge, and I failed multiple times. In order for you to be great in success, you got to fail, right? It is what it is. So I failed multiple times, but I learned from my mistakes, and adapting to different individuals. So like I said, 90%. A lot of people are watching this right now. 90% of my clients are fat loss clients.
They're not competitors.
They're not competitors. 10% of them are my competitors, yes. Most of 99% of competitors that I have, I think might be 100%, that actually came from lifestyle.
Oh, okay.
From fat
so
loss.
they made the transition.
They made a transition. Okay. So in order for them to be my athlete, you got to earn that spot, right? So 90% of my clients are lifestyle or fat loss client. And learning how to talk to a bigger guy that's super muscular and needs to shred fat, but that person has a bad relationship with food because they love food so much that they can't get rid of the beer, the burger, the pizza. And then you're talking to a guy that are 6 foot flat at 180 pounds shredded, never gained above 190 ever in his life. And that person's having a hard time eating as much food as he can, but also have his own mental block as well. I'm going to show you that similarity. And then a pregnant one is different, obviously.
Of course,
physically
different.
You're having a baby. I get it. But postpartum is real, right? So when you reach that point, when you have those mental struggles, that's when I step in and kind of nurtured a little bit more nurturing type of coaching and focusing more mental and emotional rather than just physical. In fact, some of the clients, I don't actually ask them to weigh themselves because it's so damaging to their mental. I'm like, don't weigh yourself. I'm like, you know what? Let me do that. Jump on the scale. Don't even look at it. Let me look at it.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
So yeah, I coach them very, very different. That's why I have such diversity of clients, and but not only I have diversity of clients, but culture differences as well.
Of course.
I have a lot of Hispanic. Yeah. I have a lot of Asians. And I have a lot of, Caucasian American, right? And I have some Polynesians.
And every culture has a different relationship with food, different way of doing things.
Dude, it's crazy. So then on top of their mental, and then you got to adapt to their culture.
Cultural stuff.
What their culture looks like. So at the end of the day, what I look at it is like, okay, so you know what? I'm going to help you from inside out. I'll help you look at your environment. What does your work environment looks like? What your home environment looks like, right? Those things matters. What does your support system looks like? If you don't have those support system, and I gotta tell you, majority of my clients, they don't have any. The only support system they have is me and themselves.
Wow.
So they rely on me 100%. So back to the whole business thing with my wife, that's why she focused on that, because so then I can focus on my client when they have a hard day. So how they communicate is this. So let's say you're having a bad day, right? and you're on your way home, and you said, "Fuck it, I wanna go to McDonald's and get a McFlurry," and I'll say, "Tony, call me, text me, call me. If I don't answer, text me. I'll text you back." And there's other alternatives, and then we're gonna talk about why you're in that spot.
Why you're feeling that?
Why do you feel that way? And why is that connecting to McFlurry? McFlurry had nothing to do with your fucking bad day, bro.
For sure, and that's a very interesting nuance of why. I mean,
why
you're upset? Why pizza?
Why pizza?
McFlurry? Like,
yeah,
for sure.
Why alcohol?
Yeah,
right. But I think a lot of that has to do with our environment. We grew up with our parents are doing the same thing or giving us the same thing. "Oh, Tony, you having a bad day? Here's some ice cream for you.
Here's some cake."
And you were like 5.
Facts.
So here you are at 35. Let's just say
you still have those same.
You still
thoughts.
have the same things. So how can I change that thought process in 35 years old, and you've been doing this for 35 years of your fucking life? And that's challenging for me.
100%.
As a coach, that's challenging,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because that's why I do what I do, and that's why our coaches are very successful, because they know how to go through. They break through. We call it the breakthrough workouts, or a mental breakthrough, because they realize that they don't need the correlation between them and the food to be bad, right? That's why we call it, bad relationship with food, right? People are like, oh. And then they're like, "Oh, I don't want to have pizza because pizza makes me fat." No, pizza doesn't make you fat. Burger doesn't make you fat. Sushi doesn't make you fat. Ice cream doesn't make you fat. Over consuming those things every day, absolutely. Just like alcohol.
Right.
And just like drugs.
So
right?
both extremes are bad.
Yeah.
So you want to play somewhere in the middle where you don't demonize the food, but at the same time, you don't overindulge. And it would seem to me that in order to be able to do what you do, you need to have an innate ability to have conversations.
Yes.
A very sharp skill set to get people to tell you the truth. Because if you don't know the truth, if you don't know what's actually going on, or people aren't just honest, or you just can't break through to them where they can be vulnerable, you can't help them.
I can't help them.
And so where does that skill set come from? Does that come natural to you? Is that something that you've had to work on? That ability to extract truth so that then you can provide a solution?
That's a good question. How I established that trust, it's from the beginning of our conversations. It's day one. So I have expectations, right? So when you start with my program, and I'll say, "Hey, Tony," I'll be like, "Look, bro, like I can only help you as much as I can if you're only being truthful to me, right?" And I'll say, the more honest you are, it's just data for me, right? Number 2, the more I can help you, the more I can guide you what to do in the future. It's okay, you're gonna make mistakes, and I'm gonna tell you this right now, Tony. You're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. That's not what I've learned when I was younger, bro. As an Asian culture, we're not allowed to make mistakes. A lot of my Asian clients are like, "Yeah, you're right," because we're not allowed to do that.
You're heavily penalized.
Because we're like, "Okay, you're gonna do this. You're gonna go to school. You're gonna do this. You don't do this or this. You just do this," and we're not allowed to ask why. That's how our culture works. If I question my parents back then, my parents would be like, "What the hell?" Slap the shit out of me with the slippers. You know what I mean?
You do what you're told.
Yeah, I do it. So I don't know any better, right? So growing up from that, I'll never want to be that person. I never want to be that parent, right? So now that I do what I do, I incorporate that and understand that, hey, it's okay to, let's build some trust. And you know this as a real estate agent, is you got to build rapport.
Of course.
So when you build a rapport at the beginning, they want to work with me because of who I am as a person, not because of what I do.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
So, for example, there's a lot of fitness coaches out there, right? And I had a client came to me and like, "Yeah, I work with 2-3 different coaches, or I've had consultation with 2 different coaches. You're my only person that I trust and understand where I've been and understand it from my emotional perspective." And then outside of that, I just say, well, all I do is connecting with you emotional, mentally. I'm just building a rapport and understand, because my job is obviously help you get healthy and be fit. But my job is to also find a solution to your problem.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with you, right?
But that's the thing. You're dealing with problems, right? And everybody this is new for a lot of people. They're struggling. They're off meal plan. They thought they were going to lose weight and they gain, like all of that whole entire roller coaster. You have to always be in a positive frame of mind
always
when you're dealing with what could be called negativity or negative feelings from a large client base. How do you manage that? How do you not allow that to seep into you to where now you are also in a negative frame of mind because of everything that you're dealing with of the people that you're helping?
I learned how to reset. Right. So when I see my client every hour of the day in person, once I walk out that door, I have 10 minutes to reset my brain. Okay. And we've had an hour of just hard conversation in my office about your life, your kids, maybe your husband, your wife cheated on you because of blah, 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 blah. Dude, it's crazy. I'm like part-time therapist at that point.
And you hear a lot of complaining.
Yeah. And so what I do is I give you positive affirmations all day and understand that it's okay to make mistakes. But if you make mistakes multiple times, most likely if you make a lot of mistakes for series of times, you probably won't last in my program because I'm going to kick you out. I promise you that. I have a lot of people that I've kicked out before and they don't like it, but guess what? They do better the second time around. Like I've had a client, he's watching this right now, where I kicked him out of my program because he's with me for 1 year. And then I gave him the nick. And guess what? The next 12 weeks after I kicked him out, his body composition changed just like that.
Wow.
But I had to do that. I had to push him out the door and be like, I'm done. I can't coach you, bro.
To get him to wake up and react.
And he fucking woke up.
Sure.
And he did his first show this year. He was shredded.
That's awesome.
Right? And so back to what you were saying and how I communicate with my clients is key because that's the biggest thing that I do, and understand what their problems are and finding the solution to their problems and being there for them. And you're right. I get better every year. Every year that I'm a coach, I get better and better and better every year. My first year of coaching, I probably didn't do a lot of rapport with a lot of my clients. I was very straightforward. I was like, okay, here's a plan, here's a workout program, and go. And what happens is that you're not emotionally invested in me. So when you ask me to elaborate, if you picked me because of who I am, but not because of what I do, because I don't sell you my program. I don't want to sell you my program.
I can get a meal plan
anywhere, right? But why you want to work with me is because of who I am.
It's personal brand.
Exactly.
It's personal brand.
Because you like me for who I am. And that's one of the things I tell all the coaches, because I mentor a couple of coaches here in Utah, and they ask me all the time, like, hey, how do you get new clients all the time? And I say, it's not about getting new clients. It's about having client retention and build the trust and communication with that person, so they will give you 20 more people per person. 20 per client can give you 20 more clients.
Word of mouth is everything.
It's everything.
It works the same in my business.
99% of my clients are all referral.
Wow.
99%. If you come to me and say, hey, I found you on Facebook or Google or Instagram, I want to work with you. And I'm like, oh, who referred you? I'm like, oh, well, I just like what you do. And I'm like, I would give them to Nick or Britt or Peyton.
That's interesting.
I don't.
So you prioritize referral.
I prioritize referral because I don't have to sell you my program.
Facts.
Right? So back to the whole communication thing. When you walk into my door, you already sold on the program because your husband or your wife or your friends or family done it. So they know how hard it is.
Positive point of reference.
Yeah. Yes. And they've been with me for almost 12 months. And number two, I build a rapport, connect with them emotionally. I broke down the wall, connect with them even more. And then that's how they become more vulnerable to me and understand that I'm here for them. And I will never, ever scold you because you didn't do your workout or you didn't eat your meals, blah, blah, blah. If you do it again, we're going to have some hard conversations. Yeah. And most likely, you're not with me anymore, right? So when I build this rapport, that's what people are invested, because they're invested emotionally in me.
Yeah.
And that's how it connects.
I love that. I love that. And you coach a lot of people, but you also coach some heavy hitters. I want to talk about one in particular, Chris Crone, multi-millionaire, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. Talk to me a little bit about that. How you connected with him, and did you feel any intimidation?
No.
He's a tall dude. He's a big dude. I know Chris personally. I've been to his events. I've had meetings with him. Talk to me about that relationship because he's super busy, serial entrepreneur, speaker, travels all over the place, a big profile name.
Yeah.
And so the fact that someone in that position puts their trust in you, what has that been like?
You know what's funny? When I first posted about him and people were freaking out, a lot of coaches here in Utah, they're like, bro, how did you land that? How did you get him? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Because he's just another guy.
You seem that way.
Yeah.
But many people outside are like, you got the big fish, right? And you're like, what the hell?
But to me, it's just another guy,
Yeah.
right? So the funny thing was my friend Marjorie was the one who referred our company to them. So Britt was working with his wife for about 6 months. And 2 months into it, or a month into it, Marjorie texted me, hey, I think he's looking for a coach, preferably a male. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll do a FaceTime with him. So we FaceTimed for 30, 40 minutes, I think, while he was driving in his BMWs that he was driving, right?
Yep.
And we connected. And you know what's funny about, and now that I realize that why we connected so easy, because the way he does, I mean, you've been in his seminars.
I have.
The way he does his mindset stuff, it's the same way I coach my client. So we connected.
Resonate with each other.
I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, dude, this is, and I said, Chris, I think you're awesome. I think I want you to be my client, because I have to pick and choose who I want as my client. Just because you have a consultation with me doesn't mean that you're going to sign up. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. Because I want you to find the right coach and I want to find the right clients, right? So when I had a conversation with Chris, I'm like, okay, bro. He goes, bro, I want to get fit. I want to get back on track. I've had a trainer before. He didn't really do a good job. So I want to see what you offer. And he wanted me to come to his house to train with him once a week. But I was like, it's a far drive. I normally let my clients come to me. I've never trained anybody out of their house before. And he made me an offer that I can't refuse. And we made a deal for me to come to his house twice a month. Like, that's it. But we communicate every single week, every single day. We communicate. He texts me all the time. And that's how it worked. And then when I started to get to know him, I wasn't following on Instagram. I had no idea he was on YouTube. I had no idea who he was. And I was just coaching him for like a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two. And then the more I post about him, people were like, what the hell? Yo, do you know who that is? Do you know who that is? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I'm spitting everywhere. What are you talking about? And then I finally follow him on Instagram and look up his YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, I guess he is a big deal. I don't know. But again, regardless of what I know now, I treat him exact same way as I do all my other clients.
Yeah, and I'm sure that he appreciates that. That you.
And I think he sees that.
Yeah.
And that's why he signed up another 6 months with me, so he's gonna be with me for a year. And then after that, he's actually gonna keep continuing, working with me for as long as he wants.
And he just did a show.
He just did a show in Wausau. He took second.
Nice.
In a master's class, and He looks amazing.
Yeah.
And by the way, he looks amazing. I think he could look better, right? Because he was traveling so much. He was. The food wasn't as dialed in as I wanted to, right? Because if you want to be a competitor, if you want to be a true competitor, man, this is very tough. But the fact that he did, though, I mean, it was very impressive. And I mean, he will text me. He will be in Florida, and then he'll be in New York, and then he'll be in San Diego in a week span. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he was like 3 weeks out from a show.
Traveling all over the place.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro.
That makes it way more difficult.
Yeah. So what I do is I put a little really, really tight leash on him, and I'm like, hey bro, I need you to text me your check-in. I need you to check in with me like every third day. Not every week, not once a week, every third day. Because I want to make sure you're on point. And I trust him, and I don't have to worry about him because his body composition changes every single week up until the show.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with that. I'm like, okay, cool. And now we're working on another show.
On the next show.
I
want to kind of dive into that dynamic of competition.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before. I've put it on social media, but I find bodybuilding one of the most fascinating sports
100%
in the world.
100%.
Because you lose so much. You lose much more than you win.
Yeah.
And in many cases, people will take 6th place and they'll be so happy about taking 6th place, 5th place, 4th place. And for a long time, I didn't understand that because I come from traditional sports, football, basketball, soccer, where you lose.
You lose.
You lose.
You
like
lose,
you
lose,
know what I mean? And so I see people posting, oh, I got 4th place. I'm so stoked. I'm like, bro, you lost.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that dynamic, how
Yeah.
mentally you get there. You've won shows, you've lost shows. Chris, tell me, he took 2nd. He lost the show.
Yeah.
So what goes into mentally staying positive
Yeah.
when you're losing more often than you're winning?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different parts of that. First of all, physical appearance, right? The physical appearance on bodybuilding, each division. The funniest thing about this is we don't have any point systems. Do you know that?
Yeah, it's completely subjective to the judge.
We do, yeah. So it depends on the competitors. If the competitors are kind of weak all around, then you might get a better chance to place 1st or 2nd or 3rd, right? But if the competitors are stacked, like national level stacked, ooh,
It's tough.
it's tough. But you brought your best physique because you look better than you did the year before or the year before that. So you're happy, even though you took 4th, because you didn't. Because let's put it this way: I would rather lose to someone that looks incredible than me winning by default, right? If I step on stage with like 3 people and they look like shit, and I looked up and I'm like, man, this is not, it's not fun for me because we worked so hard to get there. That's why we're so happy when we get to that point, because we work our asses off. We know that we improved what we looked like the year before. We've added 5 to minimum 10 pounds of mass the year before, the year after. And you step on stage, at some point, obviously you want to bring your best. You want to peak you correctly. That's up to you, coach, right? And when you land 2nd, 3rd, or 1st, that obviously depending on the judges, but also at the same time, you should be happy though, because you've worked for it. You've looked so much better than you did before. And guess what? There's another show the week after. Let's roll that out. And that's
I think that is an interesting point, that there's always another show.
There's always another show.
There's always another game. There's always another opportunity.
Just because you lose, it doesn't mean that's it.
For sure.
And that, but also on the opposite side of it, if you continue to work on it and you improve, but you keep coming up 2nd, you keep coming up 3rd, you keep coming up 4th, at some point it's gonna wear you out. Like I did.
That happened to you.
It happened to me. Like I did. So I did. A lot of followers are watching this right now. I did 7 shows total, right? And I won 1, and I took 2nd 4 times.
4 times.
4 times.
Out of those 4 times, how many do you genuinely feel that you should have won?
No, I lost.
You lost?
I lost.
You own that.
I own that.
There's not one that you're like, dude, I got robbed. This sucks.
Yeah. No. Hell no. I knew, because the guy came in. The guy was like,
you just knew.
Yeah. I was like, fuck. I was like, how am I gonna beat this?
Yeah.
And I'm okay at that point, because I'm like, okay, you know what though? And I backstage and like I fist pump him and I said, look, bro, you look amazing. You look like a pro. And a couple weeks later, he did a national show. He turned pro. Or I can't tell you how many times I've lost to my Class A division, and that guy ended up winning the overall of all men's physique division, right? So I'm like, okay, so I lost to an overall guy.
Someone that's going to be a pro.
That's not bad, right? But the one show that really got me was October 2021, and I took 3rd actually. And I thought I brought, I came in peeled, but I think I was underfed.
I watched that show.
Yeah, you watched that, and that psychologically, that was the only show psychologically that really fucked me up, because when I looked at the number 2 and the number 1 competitor, and I'm like, what is going on? And then when I got the judges' feedback, and they said, you were conditioned, you're proportioned, but you're not big enough. But my posing was also on point too. And I'm looking at these guys that won 2nd and 1st. They didn't really have the posing that they need. They weren't really proportionate, but the only thing they got from me from that was they were slightly bigger,
a little bit more size.
They, not maybe a little. I'm talking maybe 5-10 more pounds than I have, right? And that's pretty significant when you're 70% body fat.
Yep.
But I was so, dude, I was lit up, bro. So Saturday night I was distraught. Sunday I talked to my coach, and he was like, bro, think about it. Let's do another one. There's another show in Vegas. I want you to come to Vegas. Vegas is a much bigger show, a much better show, more competitive. And I'm like, more
That's
competitive.
worse.
I'm like, bro, but that's okay. Because again, like I said before, I would rather lose to someone that really looks better than me.
That's interesting though, because that mindset of I rather go to a large Las Vegas show where it's more competition versus going to some show in like rural South Dakota with like 4 dudes that you're gonna kill it. A lot of dudes would go to South Dakota and just crush it
because you prep for 18, 20 fucking weeks to look the best you've ever looked. So you want to be on stage with the best of the best. Why would I want to go? You know what I mean? Like it's like you're an all-state football player and you play it against a 3-star team. Of course you're gonna outrun everybody, but is that fun for you? Honestly, I don't think so. I'm like, cool, I'll win. I outran everybody, but I'm an all-state player. I should have played 4.
I was supposed to win.
Yeah, I need to, but it's just different with bodybuilding, man, because it comes with the discipline with nutrition and workout, and then you have to sacrifice so much of your time away from your kids, sometimes your business, your wife. The relationship suffers because how the balance work is there's no balance.
There's no balance.
And
I know people that have gotten divorced, separated.
There's no balance. I don't care what people say. I'm like, yeah, bro, you can balance it. Fuck no. I'm telling you that right now. I've done 7 shows, and I have my own business, a kid, and a wife, 2 houses. You can't balance that shit. That's why she does a lot of that background stuff, and I only focus on one thing. And so there's no such thing. There's no such thing as balance. There's only, only results. I would say
You manage it. You try to find a way to
manage.
Survive.
Manage.
Yeah.
Sometimes the scale tips this way. Cool, tip it back up. But when it comes to bodybuilding, though, when I'm on a show, I don't go anywhere. You don't see me outing. You don't see me go bowling. You don't see me do a lot of barbecue stuff with the family because I'm just miserable sitting there watching you eating steak while I'm just eating my tilapia and veggies, right? It's not fun for me. Yeah. But am I there? Yes. Yeah. You know, sometimes I'll go because I want to spend time with my wife and the kid,
right, and
the family, because I want to see my face. It's not because I'm miserable.
But at this point in time, you have a healthy relationship with food to where you can go to a barbecue and not feel bad or
no.
You know, like
I don't do it.
You can be there and be with your friends and enjoy your time, and you don't have to eat the banana pudding or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like you're good.
The smell doesn't faze me anymore. Being there doesn't faze me anymore. But when I'm past that. But when it comes to energy though, when I'm low carbs and I can only be there for 3 hours, bro. I'm like, dude, even an hour, I'm like, fuck, I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah. So then I'll just leave early and that's okay. And they understand. Or if it's an all-day event, for example, July 4th last year, and I was a week out from my show. Dude, it was, and everybody was barbecuing, right? And I was a week out from my show. I didn't want to do it. So I just literally sat there the entire time and watched everybody play. But midday, I took a nap. I went missing for like a couple hours. I took a nap. Yeah. But I had to wake up every 2-3 hours because I had to eat, right? I'm like, damn it. Yeah. So I can't really nap 5 hours because I got to eat. But yeah, so the dynamic behind, you know, when you see people are happy, at the end of the day, I mean, you're really not, right? I mean, nobody's okay with 2nd, 3rd, 4th place. We're really not. But if you bring in the results that you wanted in terms of your physique, because you beat your last, because at the end of the day, you're competing against yourself.
Sure.
Because you want to beat your past self. But if you came in first, grand. You know, I took first, right? So right after I took 3rd in October, 3 weeks later, I had so much vengeance. A fire lit up my ass, and I went in Goku mode. I swear to God, and I was so tunnel vision, and I looked so much better the week of my 2nd show in November, and I showed up to that show. It was a big show. In my class alone, it was like 12 dudes. I'm like, damn, these guys are stacked. I mean, we're all short because we're 5'6" and below, right? Yeah. And I'm like, damn, that's gonna be tough. And then so I'll explain to you this moment. This is what I want to share with a lot of people, and a lot of my listeners don't know about this. And when I got on stage, and I took the middle spot, and I was battling for 2nd first, and I took 1st. And prejudging is where obviously the judges compare your physique, and that's how they place you. Period. The night show is just for the show. It's just for the medals. You do your individual routine. You're done, right? Unless you want to go to the overall, then they judge you right then. So I took middle, And it was a weird feeling for me to stand in the middle of the stage. I'm like, why am I in the middle? It was weird, dude. It was surreal. I was like, holy shit, I think I got first. The moment the judge says, all right, guys, really tough, competitive. Thank you so much. And I got off stage. Bro, this moment right here, I got off stage, and I'm trying not to be emotional. I got off stage and immediately went to my phone. And I FaceTime Jess, right? And Jess knew at that time because Nick was in the crowd. Nick went with me to Vegas. So background story, Jess went with, she goes every show that I've competed in, except for one show, and this was the Vegas show that I won.
The Vegas show that you won. Damn.
And so she knew that I took middle because Nick was texting him. And when I got to my phone, when I FaceTimed her, she was already crying. She was already like emotional on the other side, right? And I'm like, fuck, like just like I am right now. And I'm like, fuck. And I was like, babe, I was like, we did it. And then we just cried for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Didn't even say a word.
You broke through.
Yeah. And that was my first my first fucking win. And she couldn't even be there for me. It's not that she didn't choose not to. It was just a last minute trip. There was a lot of money to get there. I mean, we flew in, we flew out. You know, and so Nick went with me, and with the baby, we had to rent a car, and it was just too much, right? And I remember FaceTiming her, and I said, babe, we did it.
We did it. We won.
And then yeah.
No, and that's so meaningful from an emotional perspective of just everything that you went through, losing 6 times, and then finally breaking through with that win. I can't imagine what that felt like, you know? And it truly cements you as an even greater coach because you've done it. You've been there. You know, sometimes I look at coaches and they coach, but they haven't really accomplished the thing, you know? And so I sometimes push back a little bit on that until you've done the thing. And so I think that you finally being able to say, I've won a show, a big show. I think that also gives you a lot more cred as a coach because now you've had that experience. You know what that feels like. So I think that is a tremendous story. To kind of wrap up, there are a lot of people out there that are in tough situations physically. They look in the mirror. They don't like what they see. They don't feel great. Maybe low budget. Maybe they're, especially now, inflation, $6 a gallon for gas.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's like a $400 a month coach or whatever it costs. I can't do it, but they don't feel good. What would be some advice for that person that is listening that maybe can't afford a coach but is struggling and really wants to get better but hasn't been able to push through yet?
There's some steps that you can do, right? Step number 1. Focus on 80-20. Don't focus on doing keto, Atkins diets, doing all this crazy fat diets just to lose 30 pounds in, 90 days. Focus on 80-20. What that means is, start eliminating, the bad sugars, going to bed early, start drinking a gallon of water a day. So eliminate your sodas, right? Diet sodas is fine. 1 a day is fine, but if you drink 6 of those a day, then you got a problem, right?
Guilty.
But start a gallon a day, start adding veggies, start eliminating a little bit of fats from your diet. So instead of doing a ribeye, maybe do a little bit leaner steak, for example. I love steak too. I think meal prepping is probably, it's not just meal prepping, like, because if I said meal prep, everybody will do like chicken and rice and all that bullshit plan, which works for my athletes, but not for everyone. Not my lifestyle. Yeah, my lifestyle people have a variety of different menus. I think start eliminating bad sugar is probably the first step that you can do, and focus on 80-20, right? And then the next step is eliminating bad habits and creating good habits. So the bad habits would be, again, back to the snacking, sleeping in late, eating popcorn with butter when you're watching a movie, and that's normal.
A easy tweak that you can make.
Easy, just get rid of the butter. Those are simple things, Instead of ice cream, instead of regular vanilla ice cream, maybe you can do what's that one?
Like gelato, or
gelato's better.
Frozen yogurt.
Frozen yogurt is better. Preferably, what's that one that's really famous? It's like Halo Top. Thank you.
Okay.
Halo Top is generally pretty good. I mean, per pint, it's like 300 roughly calories or so. And
so it's like not eliminating completely. It's just tweaking
yeah.
and trying to make it not as damaging.
You remember we talked about 80-20.
Of course.
Right? If you want to talk about 100%, then yeah, get rid of every sweet, every ice cream. So because that's not the point. That's why people fail, because they get rid of everything in their house. And then week 2, they're like, fuck it, I'm going to binge. And then they go to buffet and they'll eat everything. Yeah. So 80-20 is probably the first step. And then the second step is eliminating bad habits and creating good habits. Creating good habits is, adding a little bit more veggies and leaner steak. Or you could do chicken breast instead of chicken thighs sometimes. Eating more egg whites than you do whole eggs, because a lot of people do what? The normal American diet is bacon, 2 whole eggs, hash brown cooked with butter, and pancakes with regular sugar syrup on it. You know what I mean? And those is just calories. You're sitting at 1,000 calories at breakfast before 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? So if you eliminate that just by a little bit, it goes a long way. Now, here's the hard part that a lot of people can't do. And it's hard even for myself and my clients included. Learning how to say no.
That's key.
It's hard to learn how to say no, because saying no to going out to the bar every single weekend.
Alcohol has a ton of calories.
Alcohol. Saying no to alcohol when it's not time for you to drink alcohol. Sure. There's time. I drink. A lot of my clients are watching this right now, and 90% of them drink alcohol. But
it's
they
just
still
learning
how to when to do it. Yeah.
That's
and I would never tell you not to eat or drink anything in your life. I love pizzas and donuts. I still do eat that, but in moderation. Like, I do it sometime, right? Sure. When my coach says I have a cheat meal, I'll do it. Learning how to say no is probably the hardest part to do, because you want to be a part of society. You want to be a part of your group friends. You want to be a part of, the lunch meeting that everybody goes to sushi burrito with, right? How can you say no and be like, someone's knocking on your door and be like, hey, Fred, Bob, and Maggie, we're all going to go to sushi burrito or get pho. You want to come? And you're like...
You don't want to be that dude that's like, oh, no.
Yeah, it's hard, though.
Yeah.
It's hard to be an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of my successful client knows this. In order for you to be great at your fitness journey is you got to be selfish, dude. I think...
You have to make some sacrifices.
Yeah. So my next step to that is you learn how to be selfish. And that's hard. Learning how to say no and learning how to be selfish is probably the hardest thing. And Rachel know about this, too, because I coach her through that process.
Yeah. Being selfish kindly, in a kind way.
In a kind way. Yeah. And sometimes you got to be rude, dude.
You said
I'm going to tell you that. Sometimes you got to be rude. Sometimes I'm like, look, I can't go to the club.
Or if somebody's like, come on, just one drink, just one. Really? You're not going to eat the... Come on. Like those kinds of situations where it's like your buddies and they're like, dude, don't be an asshole. Like,
great example.
It's my kid's birthday. Eat a cupcake.
Great example. And sometimes what will happen if you focus so much on your journey, you will actually eliminate yourself from that situation. Yeah. So you will no longer be there.
Or at some point in time, people will just respect you, and you'll learn who is going to respect your journey and who's just going to demonize you for it or just call you an asshole because you don't want to eat the burger.
Bro, that's probably the hardest thing that I coach my client with, and understand that it's okay to be different.
Because you're not there at that moment. So they have to make that decision on their own without you whispering in their ear.
And guess what? Every one of them texts me afterwards.
Like, I did it.
They're like, Coach,
I love that.
Guess what? We were at the bowling place. What is that? Not bowling. The
Fat Cats or whatever. Top golf. And I didn't break.
And everybody was drinking. Everybody was eating whatever. Guess what I had? I had a salad with chicken breast on it. I'm like, that's great. Like, and I had one drink. And what was that? And they'll be like, vodka with soda and lime. That's great, dude. Yeah. That's awesome. And how'd you feel the next day? I feel amazing. I'm back at it. And I'm like, so what your friends are doing? Oh, they're sleeping until noon.
They have a food coma. They're struggling.
So yeah, it's so those are the steps that you guys can do if you guys are watching this, and just 80-20, eliminate bad habits and start creating new habits, right? Learning how to say no. And then the last piece of the puzzle that I didn't talk about is just enjoy the process. Don't eliminate your cheat meals. Do one cheat meal a week. Just one.
And understand that it's a process.
Yeah.
Don't put a deadline on it. These 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, just like you said, enjoy it. It might be a month. It might take 27 months. But that time is going to pass regardless.
It's going to pass.
5 years are going to pass. 10 years are going to pass. As long as you're in a better place then than you are now, I think that can be categorized as a win.
And and part of the number one reason why I think people fail because they're not seeing results fast enough.
You're not impatient.
You're very, very impatient. And again, a lot of my clients signs up with me 24 weeks at a time. I don't do the 12 weeks anymore, or I don't even do monthlies anymore.
That's
they
interesting.
pay 24 weeks up front.
Because that's what it's going to take just to set the stage.
Yeah. And then if they want to continue afterwards, if I allow you to, right, then we could do monthly after that. Because why? I trust you. You trust me. We know the process work. You made some changes. Let's go monthly. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you've already set the foundation.
And what I mean by that, if I allow you to, only if you make some sort of either mental, emotional, physical changes. Not it's not just physical. Right, if you're willing to make this work and you're not late with your check-in every single week, you're communicating, I'll let you stay, because sometimes it takes a little bit more time for us to kind of figure out your routine, your body, what your body likes and don't like. You know,
I love that.
I'm gonna tell you right now, a lot of people that I have right now that's starting their journey with me the last couple of weeks or this year alone, we've already talked about what we want to do 2023.
Because it's a long-term game, man. Like, that just makes sense to me. And not only is it smart in a business sense, but just in a helping people succeed in a healthy fashion, if you will. So, Yohan, where can people find you? People that are watching this, where can they connect with you? Now's the time for your pitch, my man.
The best way to communicate with me, follow me on Instagram. It's called Yo-Yo Gains with a Z. If you want to follow me, follow our company as well. Our company is called Unfinished Lifestyle, one word. We're local here in Utah. We're out of West Jordan, Utah. You've been to the building before.
I have. Tremendous facility.
Awesome facility. Super clean, brand new facility. I have 3 awesome, amazing coaches that works with me, not for me, with me, and we all have the same program. Similar in coaching, but we all have different personality, right? So pick and choose on whoever you want to work with. So if you want to set up your, if you're wondering about our program, pricing wise, set up a free consultation. It's free, literally. Like, we don't charge you for consultation, FaceTime or in person. It don't matter, because that time is for us to give you knowledge and understand what we do for a living and why we're so successful at what we do. So UNFINISHEDLifestyle.com is our website. We're on Google as well. And a couple of weeks ago, this is our second year in this business in September. We are going to, we've already surpassed 100 5-star Google reviews.
I've seen that. That is true.
Yeah.
That is tremendous.
Which is amazing.
That is tremendous.
Yeah.
In such a short period of time. Right? Guys, follow Yohan. I personally vouch for Yohan. I put my stamp of approval on Unfinished Lifestyle. Just one piece of advice: do not order the dad hat, because it takes 8 months to arrive. But everything else,
that was COVID, bro.
But everything else, this dude is the real deal. All jokes aside, just a tremendous human being. Really cares, takes care of people from the heart. Does it because you want to make a positive impact, not because you want to fill your bank account. I feel that. I know that. And I would not vouch for someone that I didn't 100% back. So guys, follow Yohan. Tremendous advice. He's very active on his stories. He's always posting success stories, always posting his routines. I mean, you can literally get workouts just from watching his stories alone, and that is free. So with that being said, Yohan, thank you so much for being on the show.
For sure.
Till next time, guys.
Till next time.